Hello everyone, I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Today we're going to talk about something that is going to make you look at your daily life in a completely different way. The medieval rules, customs, and practices that have somehow survived 800 years of history and that you are still following today right now, probably without realizing it. Some of them are harmless quirks, some of them made sense once and absolutely do not anymore. And some of them are so deeply embedded in modern life that the idea of removing them would cause genuine social chaos, which tells you something interesting about how human civilization actually works. But before we dive in, please subscribe if you enjoy what I do here. It genuinely means everything to me. And drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing viewers from every corner of the world. Now, let's find the Middle Ages hiding in your Tuesday. You are doing something medieval right now. Not in the obvious sense. You're not wearing chainmail, you're not churning butter, you're not worrying about whether your crops will survive the winter, or whether the local lord will increase your labour obligations, or whether the plague that hit the village 3 weeks ago has decided to pay your household a visit. You are presumably in a reasonably comfortable environment, with access to modern technology, probably holding some kind of screen, possibly eating something that required no immediate preparation on your part. But somewhere in the specific texture of your day, in the way you address someone by a title that has been meaningless for 500 years, in the specific organisation of the calendar you are using, in the particular way the institution you work for or attend is structured, in the specific legal concepts that govern your property rights, in the bizarre and completely unnecessary convention you just followed without thinking. Somewhere in all of that, you are following a rule that somebody made in the Middle Ages, not as a metaphor, literally. There are specific practices, specific conventions, specific organisational structures, specific legal concepts, specific everyday behaviours that trace their direct lineage to the medieval period and that have survived primarily because human societies have a remarkable tendency to keep doing things that work well enough not to change, even when the original reasons for doing those things have entirely evaporated. This is the story of those practices. It is partly a story about institutional inertia, about how human organisations perpetuate specific behaviours long after the circumstances that created them have changed. It is partly a story about the specific intelligence of medieval solutions, about why some of the things they invented were actually good enough that they are worth keeping, even without the original context. And it is partly a story about the specific absurdity of human culture, about how we confidently perform specific rituals and follow specific rules without knowing why, which is both entirely normal and slightly alarming when you think about it. Let's think about it. Chapter 1. The QWERTY keyboard. Typing like it's 1873, which is practically medieval. Let's start with something that you're probably using right now, or that you use every day, and that was specifically designed to solve a problem that has not existed for approximately 50 years, the QWERTY keyboard layout. The QWERTY layout, named for the first 6 letters in the top left row, was designed in the early 1870s for the Remington typewriter. The specific design challenge that the layout solved was this. Early mechanical typewriters had a specific physical problem where type bars, the metal arms that struck the ribbon and imprinted letters on the paper, would jam if adjacent type bars were struck in rapid succession. Fast typists who typed common letter combinations quickly were causing mechanical jams that slowed them down and damaged the machine. The QWERTY layout was specifically designed to place commonly used letter combinations on alternating hands or on keys whose type bars were physically separated from each other, reducing the specific jamming problem. It was, in its original context, a genuine engineering solution to a genuine mechanical problem. You do not have type bars. Your keyboard does not have type bars. Your phone certainly does not have type bars. The specific mechanical problem that QWERTY was designed to solve does not exist in any technology manufactured after approximately 1970. The layout you're using was optimized for the mechanical limitations of a device that no longer exists. The QWERTY story is not medieval in the literal sense. It is from the 19th century, but it is the specific type of example that medieval rule persistence represents. A solution to a specific problem persisting long after the problem has disappeared, because the specific network effects and switching, costs of changing, have become larger than the specific inefficiencies of the existing system. The Dvorak keyboard layout developed in 1936 and designed to be more efficient for modern typing by placing the most commonly used letters in the home row, has been repeatedly shown in studies to allow faster typing with less finger movement and less fatigue. It has not replaced QWERTY, because approximately 1 billion people already know QWERTY. All keyboards are manufactured with QWERTY as the default, all typing training uses QWERTY, and the specific cost of retraining 1 billion typists significantly exceeds the specific benefit of marginally faster individual typing. This is exactly the logic that keeps medieval rules in place. The original reason disappears. A better alternative might exist, but the switching cost, the specific cost of changing something that everyone is already doing, is large enough that the existing system persists. Now let's go back to the actual medieval period and find some examples that are a little more surprising. Chapter 2. The Academic World, a Museum of Medieval Customs. You are graduating from university. You are wearing a specific garment, a long robe, probably black with a specific hood attached. If you are receiving a higher degree, the hood is lined with specific colours indicating your field of study and your institution. Your professors are also wearing these garments, probably in more elaborate forms, with specific hoods and specific headgear and specific colours indicating their own degrees and their own institutions. The specific ceremony involves specific words spoken in a specific order, specific gestures, specific ritual movements that everyone performs at specific moments. Almost none of this has anything to do with the specific purpose of a university degree in the 21st century. Almost all of it traces directly and continuously to the medieval university of the 12th and 13th centuries. The university itself is a medieval institution, not like a medieval institution, an actual medieval institution, with direct institutional continuity from the medieval period. The University of Bologna, founded in 1088, is still operating. The University of Oxford, which began coalescing in the late 11th and early 12th century, is still operating. Cambridge, Paris, Salamanca, Heidelberg, all of these institutions have been running continuously from the medieval period. When you attend a modern university, you are participating in an institution whose fundamental structure was designed in the 12th century. The specific academic regalia that you wear at graduation is medieval clothing. The long robe was the specific everyday clothing of medieval scholars, comfortable, warm, appropriate for the climate of the specific northern European university towns, where the medieval university tradition primarily developed. The hood was a practical garment for keeping rain off your head in the specific wet climate of Oxford or Cambridge or Paris. The specific colours that indicate different faculties, the particular red of law, the blue of philosophy, the black of theology, with a specific medieval differentiation between different bodies of scholars within the medieval university. The specific ceremony of graduation, the disputator tradition in which the candidate defended their thesis before a panel of scholars, the specific conferral of the degree by the university's chancellor or their representative, the particular Latin formulas that accompanied the conferral, traced to the specific medieval examination practices of the 12th and 13th century universities, the PhD defence, the specific academic ritual in which doctoral candidates defend their dissertation before a committee of specialists who then vote on whether to award the degree is a direct descendant of the medieval scholastic disputation. The academic title doctor itself is medieval. It comes from the Latin docere, to teach, and was the specific highest academic qualification of the medieval university, the qualification that entitled you to teach the subject you had studied. The specific title bachelor, the lowest academic qualification, comes from the medieval baccalaureus, which had various specific medieval meanings, including a knight in training, someone not yet entitled to display his own banner, and, in the academic context, someone who had completed the basic level of study, but not yet the full qualification. The specific tenure system that protects the academic freedom of established university faculty, the rule that a tenured professor cannot be dismissed without specific due process for reasons other than specific serious misconduct, traces to the specific medieval guild model of the university. Medieval universities were essentially guilds of scholars, and the specific protection of masters from arbitrary dismissal by their institution was built into the guild structure from the beginning. Academic freedom, the specific right of scholars to pursue knowledge without institutional interference in their conclusions, was a medieval innovation that the medieval university model built in specifically to protect scholars from the specific pressure of ecclesiastical or political authorities who might not like where specific scholarship was going. The specific academic year calendar, the particular organisation of the year into terms or semesters, with specific vacation periods that seem oddly long from a modern perspective, is medieval. The long summer break that characterises the academic calendar of most universities and schools in the Northern Hemisphere exists because medieval students were expected to return to their home communities during the summer to help with the harvest. This is not a problem that most modern students face. The specific schedule has persisted anyway. The specific lecture format, a single expert standing at the front of the room talking to a group of students who take notes, is medieval. It was specifically designed for a world in which books were hand-copied and extraordinarily expensive, and in which the specific role of the lecturer was to read aloud from a specific text and provide specific commentary on it. Since most students could not afford their own copies, the printing press made this specific format less necessary in the 15th century. The format has persisted for 500 years since then. The specific academic gown worn by judges, the specific judicial robes that signal the particular dignity and authority of the court, also trace to medieval academic clothing. Medieval lawyers were academics. They studied law at the medieval university and carried the specific visual markers of their academic training into their professional lives. The specific robe that modern judges wear in specific jurisdictions is the descendant of medieval academic clothing filtered through centuries of legal tradition. The specific practice of calling senior legal practitioners barrister or solicitor or counsel, the particular terminology of the legal profession in common law countries, traces to the specific medieval and early modern organisation of the legal profession. The Inns of Court in London, which are still the institutions through which barristers in England are called to the bar, are medieval institutions whose specific organisational structure, the hall, the chapel, the specific rooms, the particular conventions of dining together, has been maintained with remarkable continuity from the 14th century. Chapter 3. The Calendar. Medieval math for the modern world. You're using a calendar. The specific calendar you're using, the Gregorian calendar, introduced in 1582 and now the international standard, is a reform of the Julian calendar, which was introduced by Julius Caesar in 45 BCE, which was itself a reform of the Roman Republican calendar, which was the specific calendar that the Roman city-state used from the 8th century BCE onward. The specific mathematics of the Gregorian calendar, the particular 365-day year with a leap year every 4 years, except for century years unless the century year is divisible by 400, was developed specifically to correct the accumulated drift of the Julian calendar. None of this is medieval. The Julian calendar was Roman, and the Gregorian reform was Renaissance. But the specific way in which we use the calendar, the particular organisation of the week, the specific cultural significance of specific days and periods, the particular meaning of specific months, is medieval in ways that go beyond the mathematics of the calendar itself. The 7-day week is ancient. It derives from the Babylonian astrological tradition of 7 celestial bodies: Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, and was adopted by the Romans, preserved by Christianity, and transmitted to the modern world through the specific medieval Christian tradition. The specific names of the days of the week in English are a remarkable blend of the Germanic translation of this Roman astrological tradition. Sunday, Sun's Day; Monday, Moon's Day; Tuesday, Tuesday, Tu being the Germanic equivalent of Mars; Wednesday, Woden's Day, Woden being the Germanic equivalent of Mercury; Thursday, Thor's Day, Thor being the Germanic equivalent of Jupiter; Friday, Frigg's Day, Frigg being the Germanic equivalent of Venus; Saturday, Saturn's Day, which kept the Roman name. This specific naming, the Roman planets translated into Germanic deities and then preserved through medieval Christian England, is a fossil of the specific religious syncretism of the medieval Germanic conversion to Christianity, and it is preserved in the specific words you use for days of the week every single day. The specific organisation of the year into the particular months we use, with their specific lengths of 28, 29, 30, and 31 days in the particular distribution that the modern calendar uses, is a Roman inheritance preserved through the medieval church. The specific names of the months preserve specific Roman history: January from Janus, February from the Roman Purification Festival, February, March from Mars, April from possibly Aphrodite, May from the goddess Maya, June from Juno, July from Julius Caesar, August from Augustus Caesar, and then September through December from the Latin words for 7 through 10, even though these months are now the 9th through 12th months, not the 7th through 10th, because the calendar was shifted when January and February were added to the beginning of the year. The specific Christian significance of the calendar, the particular organisation of the year around Christmas, Easter, Pentecost, and the other specific feasts of the church calendar, was the medieval superimposition of Christian meaning onto the Roman calendar structure, and it still shapes the specific organisation of the modern year in ways that extend far beyond the practice of specifically Christian communities. The specific timing of school terms, of commercial seasons, of family holidays, of the particular pattern of the retail year. All of this is structured around the medieval Christian calendar's specific organisation of time, even in societies that are now substantially secular. The specific timing of Christmas, December 25th, was a choice made by the early church. The specific date was set in the 4th century, that the medieval church amplified into the particular cultural significance that December 25th now has. The specific medieval additions to Christmas tradition, the particular significance of the 12 days of Christmas, the specific customs of gift-giving and celebration, the particular foods and decorations associated with the season, were medieval developments that the subsequent centuries preserved and amplified. Easter's specific timing, the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox, is the result of the specific medieval church's resolution of the particular controversy about when Easter should be celebrated, the Easter controversy, that was a genuine source of ecclesiastical dispute in the medieval period, and that produced the specific complicated calculation that the current date of Easter uses. The specific Council of Nicaea in 325 CE established the formula, the medieval church applied and elaborated it, and modern Christendom, and by extension the specific organisation of spring school holidays, follows the result. The specific fiscal year, the particular period used for tax and accounting purposes, varies by country, but frequently does not align with the calendar year in ways that reflect specific medieval or early modern tax practices. The British financial year, which runs from April 6th, exists because of the specific 1752 adoption of the Gregorian calendar in Britain, which required the addition of 11 days to catch up with the Gregorian calendar, and which shifted the traditional tax day, March 25th Lady Day, the specific medieval first day of the new year in England, forward by 11 days to April 5th. The subsequent reform rounded this to April 6th, where it has stayed ever since. Every British tax return filed after April 6th is filed on that specific date because of a calendar reform that happened 270 years ago. Chapter 4. Legal Systems. The Law's Medieval Skeleton. You're involved in a legal dispute. It doesn't matter what the specific dispute is. Maybe you're suing someone for breach of contract. Maybe you're being sued for something you allegedly did. Maybe you're involved in a criminal proceeding of some kind. Whatever the specific facts of your dispute, the specific framework within which it is being resolved is built on a medieval foundation that is more direct and more comprehensive than most people realise. The common law, the specific legal system used in England, the United States, Australia, Canada, India, and dozens of other countries, is the direct descendant of the specific medieval English legal system that developed in the 11th through 13th centuries. Not inspired by it, not broadly similar to it, but a direct institutional continuation of it, with specific doctrines that were established in medieval cases still being cited in modern courts. The doctrine of stare decisis, the specific principle that courts should follow the decisions of previous courts when facing similar cases, was a medieval development. The particular idea that the decision of a senior court in a previous case creates a binding precedent for lower courts facing similar issues was not present in the very early common law, but developed through the 12th and 13th centuries as the specific record-keeping of the royal courts improved enough to make previous decisions accessible and citable. Modern lawyers in common law countries regularly cite cases from the medieval period. The specific case of Pearson versus Post, 1805, which established who owns a wild animal first spotted by one person but captured by another, a hunting dispute, drew on medieval principles of property law developed in the 12th and 13th centuries. The specific legal concept of fee simple, the particular form of absolute property ownership that is the standard form of land ownership in modern common law countries, was established by the Statute of Quia Emptores in 1290. When you own property in fee simple in the United States, the specific legal concept that defines your ownership was created by an English statute from the reign of Edward I. The specific legal concept of habeas corpus, the particular rule that a person cannot be detained without a specific legal justification that can be reviewed by a court, traces to the medieval period. The specific writ of habeas corpus, Latin for "you shall have the body," was a medieval legal device for bringing a detained person before a court, and its specific elaboration as a fundamental protection against arbitrary detention occurred through the medieval and early modern period. The Magna Carta provision that no free man shall be seized or imprisoned, except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land, established in 1215, is the specific ancestor of the modern habeas corpus protection that is considered fundamental to the rule of law in common law countries. The specific right to trial by jury, the particular rule that in certain criminal and civil cases, a group of ordinary citizens rather than a professional judge determines the facts of the case, is a medieval institution. The particular medieval jury evolved from the specific inquest process that the Norman kings used to gather information about their realm. The Domesday Book of 1086 was compiled using a specific inquest process that was a forerunner of the jury, and developed through the 12th and 13th centuries into the specific trial jury that determined guilt or innocence in criminal cases. The specific modern jury of 12 people, the particular number that has become standard in common law criminal trials, was established by the medieval period and has persisted without particularly strong logical justification for the specific number. 12 is not a number that has specific statistical significance for the reliability of group decisions. It is a number that appears in the specific medieval legal tradition, possibly for reasons related to the particular symbolism of the number 12 in a Christian culture, 12 apostles, 12 tribes of Israel, and it has persisted because it is the established tradition. The specific legal concept of contract, the particular enforceable agreement that is the foundation of modern commercial life, developed significantly in the medieval period through the specific ecclesiastical courts that enforced promises made under oath. Breaking a promise was a sin, and the church courts had specific jurisdiction over sin, and through the specific common law development of the action of assumpsit, roughly he undertook, that provided a specific legal remedy for breach of a specific kind of promise. The particular idea that a specific type of voluntary agreement creates specific legally enforceable obligations between the parties, so fundamental to modern commerce that it is barely noticed as a legal concept at all, was developed in the medieval period. The specific legal concept of equity, the particular body of law developed by the Court of Chancery in England to provide remedies that the specific common law courts could not provide, was a medieval development that still shapes specific areas of modern law. The particular equitable doctrines of trusts, of specific performance of contracts, of injunctions, the specific tools that equity developed, are medieval in origin and still operative in modern legal systems. The specific concept of the trust, the particular legal arrangement in which property is held by one person, the trustee, for the benefit of another, the beneficiary, was developed in the medieval period specifically to deal with the particular problems of crusaders who were leaving for the Holy Land and needed to arrange their affairs in their absence. The particular device of conveying property to a trusted friend to hold for the benefit of the crusader's family while the crusader was away, with a specific obligation to reconvey the property on return, was the specific origin of the modern trust, which is now one of the most important vehicles for holding wealth, organising charitable institutions and managing estates in the modern world. Chapter 5. Heraldry and Titles. When medieval bureaucracy became ceremony, you are addressing an envelope. The specific way you address it, the particular format, the specific placement of different elements, the particular conventions about what goes where, follows specific conventions that were established in the specific epistolary tradition that the medieval world inherited from Rome and elaborated through the specific conventions of medieval chancelleries. The specific titles that you use when addressing specific people, the particular Mr. and Mrs. and Miss and Doctor and Professor, and the various other honorifics that modern English uses, are the specific descendants of medieval title systems that had specific social and legal significance in the medieval world, and that have persisted in modern usage with varying degrees of residual significance. Mr. and Mrs. are contractions of master and mistress, specific medieval titles that indicated the particular status of someone who had mastered a specific skill or who held a specific position of authority. Master in the medieval period was a significant honorific. It indicated guild mastership, academic qualification, or specific professional attainment. Mrs. did not originally indicate marital status. It indicated the status of a woman who was a mistress of a household, which might or might not involve marriage. The specific modern association of Mrs. with married women, and Ms. as a title that does not indicate marital status, is a modern response to the particular problem of a title system that evolved to indicate status but was repurposed to indicate marital status in ways that are now considered anachronistic. Sir and Dame, the specific titles used for knights and their spouses in the British system, are direct medieval title continuations. The specific knighthood, which in the medieval period was a specific military rank with specific obligations, the provision of specified military service, the maintenance of specified equipment, the performance of specified ceremonial duties, is now primarily a ceremonial honour with no specific obligations, but it retains the specific medieval title and the specific form of address, Lord and Lady, and the specific British peerage titles of Duke, Marquess, Earl, Viscount, and Baron are medieval titles preserved in the specific British system of honours and in the specific House of Lords. The particular order of the peerage, the specific hierarchy of Duke, Marquess, Earl, Viscount, and Baron, was established in the medieval period and has been maintained without significant structural change since then, even though the specific powers and functions of the peerage have changed enormously. The specific language of British parliamentary debate, the particular convention that members of Parliament do not address each other directly, but through the Speaker, the honourable member for such and such, the specific ritual language of bills and readings and divisions, is medieval parliamentary procedure preserved because it works well enough, and because there has been no specific crisis sufficient to force its replacement. Heraldry, the specific system of visual symbols used to identify individuals, families, and institutions, was a medieval innovation that has persisted in remarkably direct form into the modern world. The specific heraldic rules, the particular blazons and tinctures and ordinaries and charges that describe coats of arms, were developed in the 12th and 13th centuries for the specific practical purpose of identifying knights in armour, and are still applied by the specific College of Arms in England, which still grants new coats of arms under the specific rules developed in the medieval period. The specific logos of many modern institutions, universities, cities, corporations, are heraldic in their design because they were designed in periods when heraldry was the specific visual language of institutional identity. The specific arms of Oxford University, of the City of London, of various medieval foundations that still operate. These are medieval visual identities preserved in modern use. The specific design of national flags, particularly the European national flags that incorporate crosses and other specific heraldic elements, is heraldic in its origin. The Cross of St. George, the specific red cross on a white field that forms the English flag, was the specific heraldic device of the crusading order associated with St. George, adopted as the English national symbol in the medieval period and preserved continuously since then. The specific Union Jack, the particular combination of the Cross of St. George, the Cross of St. Andrew, and the Cross of St. Patrick that forms the British flag, is literally a heraldic composition, combining three heraldic devices according to specific heraldic rules of combination. Chapter 6. Measurement. The medieval legacy of confused units. You're using inches, or feet, or miles. The specific units of measurement used in the United States, and to varying degrees in the United Kingdom, and a handful of other countries that have not fully converted to the metric system, are medieval units that have persisted for reasons that are primarily institutional inertia and political resistance to change rather than any specific technical advantage. The inch was, in the medieval tradition, defined as the specific width of a man's thumb at the base of the nail. The foot was, in the specific medieval tradition, defined as the length of a man's foot. These are not good definitions for a standardized unit of measurement. Different men have different sized thumbs and feet, which means that the specific inch and the specific foot varied enormously between different places and different times, creating the particular chaos of medieval measurement that anyone who has tried to study medieval architecture or manufacturing has encountered. The specific standardization of English medieval measurements, the particular attempt to establish a single consistent inch, foot, yard, and mile that would apply across the kingdom, was a persistent project of medieval and early modern English legislation, producing various specific statutes attempting to define standard units. The particular statute mile, 5,280 feet, was set in 1593 as a specific compromise between the Roman mile, 5,000 feet, and the furlong, 660 feet, specifically chosen to be exactly 8 furlongs. This specific choice, 5,280 feet, has no particular mathematical elegance or practical advantage. It is the specific result of a specific 16th century compromise that has persisted for 430 years. The specific acre, the unit of land measurement still used in the United States for real estate, was defined in the medieval period as the amount of land that a team of oxen could plough in a single day, which was approximately the specific area of a strip in the medieval open field system. The particular shape of the medieval strip, long and narrow because turning a team of oxen was difficult, produced the specific dimensions of the acre, approximately 66 feet by 660 feet, or 1 chain by 1 furlong, in the specific traditional form. The specific size of the acre was eventually standardized at 4,840 square yards, and this specific number has persisted as the standard unit of land measurement in American real estate. The specific troy weight system, still used for measuring precious metals and pharmaceuticals, is medieval in origin, named after the specific city of Troyes in France, where the particular medieval trade fairs that established this weight system were held. The particular troy ounce, approximately 31.1 grams compared to the avoirdupois ounce of approximately 28.35 grams, is a specific medieval French commercial standard, preserved in modern use precisely in those areas of commerce, precious metals, pharmaceuticals, where the specific tradition of medieval commercial practice has been most carefully preserved. The specific units of liquid measurement, the fluid ounce, the pint, the quart, the gallon, are medieval in origin, defined by the specific commercial standards of the medieval English trades in wine and ale that used these particular containers. The specific American gallon, 128 fluid ounces, and the specific British imperial gallon, 160 fluid ounces, are different specifically because they developed from different medieval English standard containers that were used for different purposes in different periods, and neither the British nor the Americans have been sufficiently motivated to align them in the centuries since independence. Chapter 7. Social Customs. The Medieval Origins of Modern Politeness. You shake someone's hand. This specific gesture, the particular extension of the right hand, palm facing sideways, gripped firmly but not bone-crushingly by the other person's right hand, pumped a specific number of times, more than 1 is expected, more than 6 is alarming, accompanied by specific eye contact and specific verbal greeting, is a custom with medieval origins that you perform multiple times a day without thinking about why. The specific origin of the handshake is disputed, but the most consistent historical explanation points to the medieval practice of demonstrating that you are not holding a weapon. The specific gesture of extending an open right hand, the hand that would typically hold a weapon, to another person was a specific signal of peaceful intent, demonstrating that you are not about to attack the person you are greeting. The specific gripping of the other person's hand, in some accounts, was the particular gesture of checking that nothing was concealed in the sleeve. Whether this specific origin story is completely accurate is debated, but the handshake was documented as a specific greeting custom in the medieval and early modern periods, and the particular association with peaceful intent and trustworthy dealing was explicitly acknowledged in the period. The specific sealed with a handshake language, the particular idea that a handshake could constitute a specific binding agreement, is medieval in its origin. The specific custom of removing your hat in the presence of a superior, in a church before a judge, on meeting someone of high status, is medieval in its origin and still partially preserved in specific modern contexts. The particular medieval practice of removing a helmet, the specific gesture of taking off the most significant piece of defensive armour in the presence of someone you were signalling peaceful, intent to, was the origin of the hat-raising gesture. The specific modern practice of removing a hat in church, which many people still follow without necessarily knowing why, is a direct descendant of this specific medieval military gesture. The specific custom of saying "bless you" when someone sneezes is medieval. The particular origin is attributed to Pope Gregory I in the 6th century, who encouraged the specific blessing response during a plague outbreak, believing that sneezing might be an early symptom of plague. Whether this specific attribution is accurate is uncertain, but the association of sneezing with potential illness and the specific religious response of invoking divine protection is medieval in its cultural context and has persisted for approximately 1,400 years as a reflex social response. The specific custom of clinking glasses before drinking, the particular cheers gesture that involves the specific physical contact of drink containers before consuming, has various proposed origins, including the medieval practice of sloshing drinks between containers to demonstrate that neither was poisoned. If you mix the drinks, poisoning one poisons both, so you are safe to drink. Whether this specific explanation is accurate is debated, but the gesture is documented in the medieval period and persisted through the early modern period in contexts that emphasized its specific significance as a demonstration of trust. The specific custom of the guest bringing a gift when visiting someone's home, a bottle of wine, a box of chocolates, flowers, is a survival of the specific medieval guest friend tradition, xenia in the Greek tradition, preserved through the medieval Christian elaboration of hospitality obligations, in which specific exchanges of gifts marked the specific relationship between host and guest and created specific obligations of reciprocal hospitality. The particular bottle of wine you bring to a dinner party is a direct descendant of the specific gift exchanges that medieval hospitality traditions required. The specific table customs that modern Western dining still follows, the particular placement of fork on the left and knife on the right, the specific order of courses from soup through dessert, the particular etiquette of not speaking with food in your mouth, are medieval in their development, elaborated through the specific courtesy literature of the medieval and early modern periods. Texts like the Book of the Courtier and various courtesy books that were explicitly designed to transmit the specific manners of the specific elite to aspiring readers, and preserved through the particular tradition of formal dining. The fork itself, the specific implement you use for eating, was a medieval innovation in Western Europe, adopted gradually through the 11th through 14th centuries from the specific Byzantine practice that was introduced through the particular cultural contacts of the Crusades and Mediterranean trade. Before the fork, the specific medieval diner used a knife and their fingers, with bread serving as a specific combination of plate and eating implement. The specific adoption of the fork was contested. It was criticized in specific medieval texts as effeminate and unnecessary, but it persisted because it worked. The specific custom of men walking on the outside of the pavement, closest to the road, when accompanying women is medieval. The particular origin is practical. Medieval streets had a specific channel in the center, or along one side where waste was thrown, and the person walking closest to the channel was most likely to be splashed by passing horses or vehicles. The specific gallant gesture of placing yourself between a companion and this specific hazard was the origin of the specific side of the street convention that some people still follow as a form of courtesy, well after the specific hazard of the central gutter channel has been replaced by enclosed sewerage systems. Chapter 8: Religious Practice and Secular Life, where they still overlap. The specific intersection of medieval religious practice and modern secular life is one of the more interesting and more contested areas of medieval rule persistence, because it involves practices that some people value for their religious meaning, others observe purely as cultural tradition, and still others are entirely unaware of as having religious origins at all. The specific organization of the working week, the particular 5-day working week with a 2-day weekend, reflects the specific Christian tradition of Sunday as the day of rest, inherited from the Jewish Sabbath tradition, and established as the Christian holy day by Constantine in 321 CE, and the specific subsequent addition of Saturday as a rest day in various industrial contexts. The particular weekend as a concept, the specific 2-day break from the working week, developed through the industrial period, but the specific sacred character of Sunday that made it the first rest day was medieval in its elaboration. The specific hours of the day that are considered appropriate for different activities, the particular expectation that major commercial activities happen between specific morning hours and specific evening hours, that specific activities are inappropriate in the early morning or late evening, that specific days have specific character, reflects the particular medieval organisation of time around the 7 canonical hours of monastic prayer: matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, compline, that the church bell system transmitted to the broader population. The specific word noon, the particular name for 12 o'clock midday, comes from the Latin nona hora, the 9th hour of the medieval monastic day, which was originally approximately 3 p.m, 9 hours after the sunrise that began the monastic day at approximately 6 a.m. The specific canonical hour of none, the midday prayer, gradually shifted earlier over the medieval period until it aligned with midday, which is why the modern noon falls at 12 rather than at 3. The word preserved the specific medieval term even as the specific time it referred to shifted. The specific custom of wedding rings, the particular wearing of a ring on the 4th finger of the left hand to indicate marital status, has classical origins. The Roman tradition of the annulus pronubis worn on the 3rd finger, preserved through the medieval church's specific elaboration of marriage as a sacrament that required specific visible markers. The particular belief that there was a specific vein running from the 4th finger of the left hand directly to the heart, the vena amoris, was a specific medieval anatomical claim, which is anatomically false but was genuinely believed in the medieval period, that influenced the specific placement of the ring on that particular finger. The specific ceremony of church weddings, the particular format of the wedding service in Christian tradition, with the specific words, specific gestures, specific vows, and specific ritual structure that the service follows, is medieval in its development. The specific formulas that the modern wedding still uses, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, appear in specific form in the medieval Sarum Rite, the specific liturgical tradition of the medieval English Church, and have been preserved with remarkable consistency through the subsequent centuries of reform and revision. The specific practice of baptism as a public ceremony, the particular making of the baptismal vow before a congregation with specific godparents who undertake specific obligations to the baptized person, is a medieval elaboration of the earlier Christian baptismal practice. The specific institution of godparents, the particular non-parental adults who undertake specific responsibility for a child's religious upbringing, was a medieval development that created specific social relationships outside the immediate family that were significant in the specific medieval world, where these relationships had specific legal and social dimensions. The specific practice of confirmation, the particular ceremony at which young people affirm the baptismal vows made on their behalf in infancy, was elaborated in the medieval period as a specific sacramental rite and is still practiced in specific Christian traditions in forms that are recognizably descended from the medieval practice. The specific custom of confession, the particular private disclosure of sins to a priest who pronounces specific absolution, was formalized by the Fourth Lateran Council in 1215 as an annual obligation for all Catholics. The specific confessional box, the particular enclosed space in which the confession takes place, with a screen separating priest and penitent, is a 16th century counter-Reformation innovation, but the specific practice of private confession that the confessional box is designed to facilitate is medieval in its formal elaboration. Chapter 9. Constitutional Law. When medieval documents are still in force, the Magna Carta is still law, not in a metaphorical or historical sense, literally. Specific provisions of the Magna Carta of 1215, documents that were produced by specific medieval political conflicts in specific medieval circumstances, are still part of the law of England and Wales, having been confirmed and reconfirmed through the subsequent centuries and never formally repealed. The specific surviving provisions include the specific protection of the liberties of the English Church, Chapter 1 of the 1297 version that became part of statute law, the specific protection of the rights of the City of London and other towns, Chapter 9, and, most significantly for modern constitutional law, the specific provision that no free man shall be seized or imprisoned, or stripped of his rights or possessions, or outlawed or exiled, or deprived of his standing in any way, nor will we proceed with force against him, or send others to do so, except by the lawful judgment of his equals, or by the law of the land. Chapter 29 of the 1297 version. This provision, which is the specific ancestor of the Due Process Clause of the US 5th and 14th Amendments, of the specific habeas corpus protection, of the particular constitutional protection against arbitrary detention, has been in continuous legal force, in some form since 1215. It has shaped constitutional law in England, and through the specific constitutional tradition that the American founders inherited and elaborated in the United States and dozens of other constitutional democracies. The specific US Constitution, the particular document that is the supreme law of the United States, draws directly from specific medieval English constitutional traditions in ways that the founders explicitly acknowledged. The particular concept of due process, the specific institution of the jury, the particular right of habeas corpus, the specific prohibition of bills of attainder, laws that declared specific people guilty without trial, all of these constitutional provisions trace directly to specific medieval English legal developments. The specific British constitutional tradition, the particular unwritten constitution that the UK operates under, is almost entirely medieval in its specific key documents and precedents. Magna Carta, 1215, the Statute of Westminster, various dates in the 13th and 14th centuries, the Parliament Act establishing specific forms of parliamentary procedure, the specific precedents of the medieval Parliament. These are the specific foundations of British constitutional law still operative today. The specific institution of Parliament itself, the particular legislature that consists of the House of Commons and the House of Lords, is a medieval institution. The specific Parliament of 1265, convened by Simon de Montfort, and including specific representatives of towns and counties, alongside the specific representatives of the clergy and nobility, is conventionally identified as an early parliament in the specific tradition that continues in the modern institution. The specific House of Lords, the upper chamber of Parliament, is the specific descendant of the medieval Great Council, and the specific process by which the House of Lords evolved from the particular medieval council is a direct institutional continuity. The specific title, Prime Minister, the particular designation of the head of government in the British system, and the many constitutional systems modelled on it, is not in the specific British Constitution. It is an informal title that developed in the early 18th century, the specific period of Robert Walpole, who is conventionally identified as the first Prime Minister, from the particular position of First Lord of the Treasury, and it has never been formally defined in statute. The specific conventions that define what a Prime Minister does, what specific powers they have, and how they can be removed, the particular constitutional conventions that govern the operation of the British government, are not law in the formal sense but operate with the force of established practice, which in the British constitutional tradition is a specific form of authority that the medieval common law tradition recognises. The specific electoral systems used in different countries, the particular methods of counting votes and translating them into representation, have medieval elements in their specific development. The specific first-past-the-post system used in the UK and US elections, in which the specific candidate with the most votes in a specific geographic constituency wins, regardless of whether they have a majority of the total votes cast, developed from the specific medieval practice of selecting knights of the shire and burgesses who were required to represent specific local constituencies in Parliament. The particular local representative, the specific person who speaks for a specific defined area, is a medieval concept that the modern electoral district preserves. Chapter 10. Architecture and Urban Planning, the Medieval City in the Modern World. You're walking through a city. If you're walking through certain specific cities, London, Paris, Rome, Edinburgh, Prague, Bruges, you're walking through streets whose specific alignment, whose particular character, whose specific locations of public buildings and markets and churches were determined in the medieval period and have persisted despite centuries of subsequent development. The specific street plans of the ancient cores of many European cities are medieval. The particular irregular, narrow, winding streets of the City of London, the specific financial district that occupies the area of the original Roman and medieval settlement, follow specific medieval property boundaries and specific medieval traffic patterns that have been preserved because rebuilding the street grid would require the particular demolition and repurchase of specific properties along specific alignments that the specific legal and commercial pressures of the modern city do not justify. The specific location of Cheapside in London, the particular commercial street that runs through the heart of the medieval city, reflects the specific medieval organisation of the commercial centre around the particular market function of the street. Cheap is from the Old English seep, meaning trade or market, preserved in the specific place name. The streets that branch off Cheapside, Bread Street, Milk Street, Poultry, Fish Street, reflect the specific medieval organisation of the market by commodity, where specific trades clustered in specific streets for the particular commercial logic of the medieval market. The specific institution of the city street plan that has most directly survived from the medieval period in the widest number of cities is the market square, the particular open space at the centre of the medieval town, where the specific weekly market occurred, surrounded by specific civic and commercial buildings, the town hall, the market hall, the guild hall, the major church, with specific radiating streets connecting to the surrounding areas. This specific urban form, repeated in hundreds of European cities and their colonial descendants around the world, is a direct medieval inheritance. The specific building typology of the church, the particular organisation of a large building with a specific main nave, specific side aisles, specific choir at the east end, specific tower or spire, is a medieval architectural development that has been so thoroughly absorbed into the specific architectural tradition of Western culture that it appears in specific buildings designed as churches, as university chapels, as town halls, and as various other building types that have adopted the specific medieval church form as a way of signalling specific qualities of permanence, dignity, and civic significance. The specific architectural features of the Gothic cathedral, the pointed arch, the flying buttress, the large stained glass window, the specific vertical emphasis that the structural system allows, were medieval structural innovations that have been repeatedly revived in subsequent centuries. The specific Gothic revival of the 19th century produced specific buildings from the Palace of Westminster to the churches of New York to the railway stations of Victorian England, specifically because the specific medieval architectural language carries specific cultural associations of spirituality, permanence, and civic aspiration that architects have repeatedly found useful. The specific building form of the castle, the particular combination of defensive walls, towers, gatehouse, and internal residential complex, has been so thoroughly absorbed into the specific symbolic vocabulary of Western culture that it appears in children's toys, in theme parks, in specific corporate logos, in the particular visual language of fantasy and adventure, and in specific architectural quotations in buildings that are not defensive at all. The specific medieval castle has become a specific cultural symbol whose particular associations, security, power, permanence, the romance of a distant past, make it useful for specific modern communicative purposes. The specific institution of the inn, the particular building type that provided specific food, drink, and accommodation to travellers, organised around a specific courtyard with specific stabling for horses, with specific sleeping accommodation in specific rooms above a specific ground floor tavern, is a medieval invention that has evolved into the modern hotel. The specific modern hotel, the particular building type that provides specific paid temporary accommodation with specific associated services, is the direct institutional descendant of the medieval inn, with a specific evolution reflecting the specific changes in transportation technology, from horses to cars, and specific commercial expectations, from shared rooms and communal tables to private rooms and individual service. Chapter 11. Financial Systems. Medieval Money in the Modern World. You're paying interest on a loan. The specific concept of interest, the particular charge made for the use of borrowed money over time, is ancient, not medieval. But the specific legal framework that makes interest charging legitimate, the particular institutions through which credit operates, the specific financial instruments used in modern commerce. These have significant medieval elements in their development. The specific prohibition on usury, the particular medieval Christian and Islamic and Jewish prohibition on charging interest on loans, was one of the most consequential financial regulations of the medieval period, and its specific lifting or limitation is the origin of specific modern financial practices. The medieval church's prohibition on usury, the specific rule that Christians could not charge interest on money loans, created the particular situation in which Jewish merchants, who were not bound by the specific Christian prohibition, occupied specific niches in the medieval economy as money lenders to Christian borrowers. The specific historical association between Jewish communities and money lending in the medieval period is a direct consequence of this specific asymmetric regulation. The particular anti-Semitic trope of the money-lending Jew is a specific product of the specific medieval regulatory environment that assigned this role by exclusion. The specific legal devices developed to circumvent the usury prohibition while still charging effectively for the use of money. The particular bills of exchange, the specific partnerships, the various financial instruments that allowed profit on money transactions without technically charging interest, are the specific origin of various modern financial instruments. The particular bill of exchange, the specific document promising payment at a specific future date and specific location, which could be traded at a discount before maturity, was a medieval Florentine innovation that is the direct ancestor of the modern commercial bill and the specific bond market. The specific double-entry bookkeeping system, the particular accounting technique that records every transaction in two places, as a debit in one account and a credit in another in equal amounts, making errors detectable and providing specific information about the financial state of the business, was developed in the medieval period by specific Italian merchant communities and described in the specific textbook of Luca Pacioli in 1494. Modern accounting is built on this specific medieval innovation, using the same particular concepts: debit, credit, asset, liability, equity, that the medieval Italian merchants developed. The specific limited liability company, the particular legal device that allows specific investors to participate in a business venture without specific personal liability beyond their specific investment, has its origins in the specific medieval and early modern commenda contracts of Italian merchants. The particular commenda was a specific contract in which a specific investor put up capital for a specific trading voyage, with the specific merchant taking the active role and the specific investor taking the passive role, and with the specific investor's liability limited to the specific capital they had contributed to the specific venture. This specific structure is the ancestor of the modern limited partnership and, through the specific early modern joint stock company, of the modern corporation with its particular protection of shareholder liability. The specific institution of the bank, the particular financial intermediary that takes deposits, makes loans and manages the specific money transmission services of the modern economy, developed in the medieval period through the specific activities of the Italian banking families, the Medici, the Basti, the Peruzzi, who operated specific networks of financial agencies across medieval Europe. The specific Medici Bank of the 15th century operated through the particular system of specific affiliated agencies in specific cities, each a specific separate legal entity, which is recognizable as a specific forerunner of the modern bank branch network. The specific current account, the particular banking account that allows specific deposits and specific withdrawals on demand, developed through the specific letter of credit and the particular deposit banking practices of the medieval Italian banks. The specific modern current account, which allows you to keep specific money in a specific bank and withdraw it on demand, is descended from the particular practice of medieval merchants who deposited specific sums with specific bankers and received specific documents entitling them to withdraw those sums in different cities. Chapter 12. Educational Curriculum. What you learned without knowing it was medieval, you studied at school. The specific subjects you studied, the particular organization of knowledge into specific academic disciplines, the particular emphasis on certain types of reasoning and certain types of knowledge, reflects a specific curriculum that was organized in the medieval period and that has shaped Western education so comprehensively that it is nearly invisible as a specific historical decision. The specific trivium, the particular medieval organization of the basic liberal arts curriculum into grammar, logic, and rhetoric, was the specific foundational education of the medieval university, designed to give students the particular analytical and communicative tools that all subsequent specific study would require. Grammar, understanding specific language; logic, reasoning correctly from specific premises; and rhetoric, communicating effectively to specific audiences. These specific skills were identified in the specific ancient tradition, but elaborated into specific pedagogical programs in the medieval university. The particular emphasis on these three specific skills, the specific ability to understand what you read, to reason correctly about it, and to communicate your conclusions effectively, is recognizable in specific modern educational goals. The specific modern university essay, with its particular requirement of a specific thesis, specific supporting argument, and specific conclusion, the particular format of academic writing that specific university students in English-speaking countries are specifically taught, is the descendant of the specific medieval argumentative form. The specific quadrivium, the particular advanced curriculum of arithmetic, geometry, music and astronomy, was the specific medieval organisation of the mathematical arts that followed the trivium in the particular medieval educational sequence. The specific inclusion of music in this list, alongside the specific mathematical disciplines, reflects the particular medieval understanding of music as fundamentally mathematical in nature, the specific ratios of musical intervals, the particular mathematical relationships that the Pythagorean tradition had identified in musical harmony, rather than as a specific performance art. The specific STEM curriculum of modern education, the particular emphasis on science, technology, engineering and mathematics, is the modern descendant of the specific medieval mathematical disciplines, filtered through the particular scientific revolution of the 16th and 17th centuries. The specific modern argument that STEM education should be the foundation of the modern curriculum is, in a specific sense, the modern version of the medieval argument that the quadrivium should follow the trivium as the specific advanced curriculum. The specific examination system, the particular assessment of specific learning through specific timed tests with specific grading, is a medieval to early modern development that became the particular institutional mechanism of the specific competitive examination systems that now govern access to specific educational and professional opportunities around the world. The specific Chinese imperial examination system, the particular competitive exam that determined access to specific government positions in imperial China, and the specific Western examination traditions of the medieval university share the particular idea that specific capability in specific areas can be assessed through specific formal performance under specific controlled conditions. The specific PhD degree, the particular terminal research degree that is the specific qualification for academic employment in most modern universities, is a direct institutional continuation of the specific medieval doctor's degree. The particular requirements of the PhD, the specific original research contribution, the specific written thesis, the specific public defense, are directly descended from the specific medieval requirements for the doctorate, elaborated through the specific 19th century German university reforms that shaped the modern research university, but built on the specific medieval institutional foundation. The specific academic hierarchy, the particular distinction between undergraduate students, graduate students, postdoctoral researchers, assistant professors, associate professors, and full professors, is a simplified version of the specific medieval hierarchy of scholars, student, bachelor, master/doctor, which itself was modelled on the specific guild hierarchy, apprentice, journeyman, master. The specific idea that expertise should be formally recognised through specific graduated levels of qualification, with specific privileges and specific responsibilities attached to each level, was a medieval innovation that the modern university has preserved in specifically recognisable form. Chapter 13. Feudalism's Ghost. Property, Law's Medieval Skeleton. You own land, or perhaps you rent it, which in the specific legal sense is actually closer to the original medieval arrangement than fee simple ownership. The particular legal framework that defines your relationship to the specific property you occupy, whether you own it, rent it, lease it, or hold it on some other specific tenure, is built on a medieval foundation that is more directly present in modern property law than most people realise. The specific concept of the freehold, the particular form of land ownership that gives the holder specific absolute control over the land, in contrast to the specific leasehold that gives only specific temporary rights, is descended from the specific medieval distinction between free tenure and unfree tenure. The particular modern freehold is the specific descendant of the medieval free tenures, the particular tenure in fee simple, fee tail, and the various other specific medieval forms of freeholding, while the specific modern leasehold is the descendant of the specific medieval practice of granting specific rights to land for specific terms in exchange for specific rent. The specific covenant that runs with the land, the particular legal device that makes specific obligations binding not just on the original parties to a specific agreement, but on all subsequent owners of specific land, is a medieval legal development. The specific covenant that restricts the use of specific land, that it must not be used for specific commercial purposes, that specific buildings must not exceed specific heights, that specific activities are prohibited. A device commonly used in modern property law is the specific modern form of the particular medieval and early modern covenant device. The specific rule against perpetuities, the particular legal rule that prevents specific interest in property from remaining uncertain or contingent for more than a specific period, traditionally a life in being plus 21 years, was developed in the early modern period specifically to address the particular problem of the medieval dead hand, the specific tendency of medieval landowners to tie up specific property in specific entails and specific conditions that prevented it from being used freely for generations. The specific modern rule against perpetuities is the particular legal response to the specific medieval practice of entail, and the specific complexity of the rule reflects the specific complexity of the problem it was solving. The specific land registration system, the particular public record of land ownership that allows specific buyers to know specifically who owns specific land before they purchase it, developed in England through the specific medieval and early modern practices of the particular chancery courts, and was formalised through the specific land registry established in the 19th century. The specific modern electronic land registry, which records specific ownership of specific parcels of land in specific databases accessible to specific authorised users, is the particular modern form of the medieval and early modern recording practices that the specific challenges of land ownership in a complex society produced. Chapter 14. The Military. When medieval hierarchy became modern command. You are aware of the existence of military ranks, the specific hierarchy of military ranks, the particular progression from private through corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, colonel, general, reflects a specific military organisational tradition that developed through the medieval and early modern periods and has been preserved in specific modern military structures with varying degrees of modification. The specific rank of sergeant, from the medieval Latin serviens meaning servant or soldier, was a specific medieval military rank indicating the particular non-noble cavalryman who served in a specific capacity between the particular foot soldier and the specific knight, the particular role that the modern sergeant plays, the specific non-commissioned officer who translates specific orders from commissioned officers into specific actions by enlisted soldiers, preserves the specific medieval military organisational role of the particular military servant who was neither noble nor simple foot soldier. The specific rank of lieutenant, from the French lieutenant, literally placeholder, the particular person who holds the specific place of a superior officer in their absence, is a medieval military rank whose specific origin reflects the particular organisational challenge of command in medieval armies, where specific units were commanded by specific nobles who were sometimes absent and who needed specific trusted subordinates to act in their particular place. The specific rank of captain, the particular commander of a specific military unit, is a medieval rank whose specific origin is in the particular Latin caput, head, indicating the specific person who was the head of a specific military formation. The particular modern captain commands a specific company of soldiers in the army, or a specific ship in the navy, preserving the specific medieval meaning of the rank while applying it to the particular modern military organisational structure. The specific military salute, the particular gesture of raising the right hand to the forehead in the presence of a superior officer, has various proposed origins, including the specific medieval practice of raising a visor to show your face, demonstrating specific peaceful intent to a superior, or the specific practice of presenting a specific weapon, demonstrating specific submission of your weapon to a superior. Whatever the specific origin, the salute is documented as a specific military custom from the medieval period and has been preserved continuously through the specific military tradition into the modern period. The specific military honour of receiving specific burial with full military honours, the particular ceremony of specific flag folding, specific rifle volley, specific bugle call, taps, or its equivalent in specific national military traditions, is the modern elaboration of the specific medieval military funeral tradition that reflected the particular significance of the deceased warrior's specific service in the specific community's defence. The particular flag-draped coffin, the specific flag presented to specific next of kin, the specific military procession, These are the modern forms of the specific medieval military funeral honours that the particular tradition of military service created and preserved. Chapter 15. The postal system, bureaucracy, and the persistence of paper. You are filling out a form. The specific form you are filling out, the particular document with specific boxes for specific information in a specific format with specific required fields, is the modern descendant of the particular medieval administrative document. The specific medieval chancery, the particular administrative office of a medieval ruler, developed specific document forms for specific administrative purposes, and the specific elaboration of these document forms through the particular early modern period of expanding state administration is the origin of the specific modern form. The specific British Royal Mail, the particular postal service that has operated in some form since 1516, when Henry VIII established the specific Master of the Posts, is a medieval to early modern institution that has been in continuous operation for 5 centuries. The particular modern Royal Mail, with its specific red post boxes and specific next-day delivery service, is the direct institutional descendant of the specific Tudor postal service that preserves specific elements of the specific medieval messenger services that preceded it. The specific concept of the government seal, the particular official mark that certifies a specific document as authentic and authoritative, is medieval. The specific wax seal of the medieval charter, the particular impression of a specific signatory's unique dye into specific wax attached to a specific document, was the particular authentication technology of the medieval world. In the absence of specific widespread literacy, the particular mechanism by which authentic documents could be distinguished from specific forgeries. The specific modern official seal, the particular embossed or printed mark that specific official documents still bear, is the direct descendant of the specific medieval wax seal. The specific British Broadcasting Corporation, the particular public broadcaster that operates under a specific royal charter, funded by a specific licence fee with a specific public service mandate, is an early 20th century institution founded in 1927 that chose a specific medieval-derived institutional form, the Royal Charter Corporation, to organise its specific activities. The particular Royal Charter, the specific document that grants a specific legal existence and specific rights to a specific institution, is a medieval legal instrument that is still used in the specific modern British constitutional system for specific purposes. The specific concept of the corporation, the particular legal person that can hold property, enter contracts, sue and be sued, separate from the specific individuals who own or manage it, developed in the medieval period through the specific ecclesiastical corporations, the particular monastery or cathedral chapter that needed to hold property across generations of specific individual monks or canons, and the specific guild corporations that needed to act collectively in the specific legal world. The modern corporation, the specific business entity that is a legal person, is the particular descendant of these specific medieval corporate forms. Chapter 16. The courtroom, where theatre became law. You're in a courtroom. Maybe you've been there in person, as a juror, as a witness, as someone unfortunate enough to be a party to a specific dispute that required specific resolution by specific people in specific robes in a specific building. Or maybe you have only been there through television, which is itself a specific distortion of the specific reality, but which preserves the specific theatrical elements well enough for our purposes. Either way, you know what a courtroom looks like. You know the specific layout, the particular elevated bench where the judge sits, the specific witness box, the particular jury box, the specific bar that separates the general public from the specific legal professionals conducting the specific proceedings. Every element of that layout is medieval. The specific elevation of the judge, the particular physical raising of the judicial seat above the level of everyone else in the room, reflects the specific medieval understanding that judicial authority was delegated from a superior power, the king, and through the king, ultimately God, and that the specific physical elevation of the judge was a specific visible representation of that specific delegated authority. The particular throne-like quality of the judge's bench, the specific ornate chair, the specific raised platform, the specific formal framing, is the medieval throne room in miniature, translated from the specific political context of royal justice into the specific modern context of professional judicial administration. The specific bar, the particular railing that divides the courtroom into the specific area for legal professionals and the specific area for everyone else, is medieval in its specific origin and its specific name. The bar, in the specific legal sense, the particular barrier that only specific qualified legal professionals are permitted to cross, is the origin of the specific phrase called to the bar, meaning admitted to practice as a barrister. The specific physical barrier was a specific medieval courtroom fixture that separated the specific judges and specific pleaders from the specific observers and specific parties, and the specific metaphorical use of crossing the bar as the particular professional qualification has persisted long after the specific physical bar became a formality rather than a functional separation. The specific wigs worn by barristers and judges in English courts, the particular horsehair constructions that are among the most visually distinctive features of the English legal tradition, and that cause specific bewilderment to foreign observers encountering them for the first time, are not medieval. They are early 18th century, but they were adopted in the specific early 18th century precisely to signal the particular continuity of the legal tradition with a specific earlier period. They were the fashionable wigs of the particular Restoration and early Georgian period, adopted by the specific legal profession as formal dress, and then preserved as the specific legal tradition changed its fashion faster than the specific courts changed their ceremonial clothing. The specific contempt of court, the particular legal power that allows a specific judge to summarily punish specific behaviour that disrupts the specific dignity or specific proceedings of the court, is medieval. The specific power of the specific medieval court to punish those who showed specific disrespect to its specific authority was a direct expression of the particular idea that the court represented not merely specific procedural machinery but the specific justice of the sovereign. And disrespect to the specific court was disrespect to the specific sovereign and, through the sovereign, to the specific divine authority that the sovereign represented. The specific modern contempt power, stripped of the particular theological framing but preserving the particular practical authority, is the direct descendant of this specific medieval judicial power. The specific oath, the particular sworn statement made by witnesses before they testify, in which they promise to tell the truth, is medieval in its specific elaboration as a legal requirement. The particular idea that a specific sworn statement carries specific additional moral and legal weight, that lying under oath is not merely dishonest but specifically perjury, a specific additional crime beyond the specific lie itself, reflects the particular medieval understanding that the oath invoked divine witness to the specific truth of the specific statement, making the specific lie not merely a deception of specific humans, but a specific affront to God. The specific modern secular oath, with its specific option of affirmation for those who don't hold specific religious beliefs, preserves the specific formal structure of the medieval oath while acknowledging the particular modern diversity of specific metaphysical commitments. The specific practice of the court rising when the judge enters, the particular moment at which everyone in the specific courtroom stands from their specific seats as the specific judge enters through the specific door behind the specific bench, is medieval ceremonial preserved as specific modern judicial ritual. The particular reason you stand is the specific reason that subjects stood in the specific presence of the medieval sovereign. The judge represents specific sovereign authority, and the specific act of standing is the particular physical acknowledgement of that specific authority. You are, every time you rise for a judge, performing a specific act of medieval political theatre whose specific meaning has been preserved even as its specific theological and political context has been substantially transformed. Chapter 17. The Names on Your Map. Medieval Geography in the Modern World. You live somewhere. The specific name of the place you live, the particular town, the specific neighbourhood, the particular street, is almost certainly older than you think, and in a significant proportion of cases it is specifically medieval in its origin, its form, or both. The specific map of the English-speaking world is a medieval document in the particular sense that the names written on it, the particular words used to identify specific places, were assigned in the medieval period and have been preserved with varying degrees of phonetic evolution since then. The specific place name endings that characterise specific regions of England, and by extension, specific parts of the English-speaking world settled from those regions, are a specific index of medieval history. The particular ton ending, from the Old English ton, meaning specific settlement or specific farm, appears in the names of thousands of specific English settlements: Taunton, Northampton, Brighton, Luton, Washington, and hundreds of others. The particular ham ending, from the Old English ham, meaning specific homestead or specific village, appears in Birmingham, Nottingham, Buckingham, Durham. The particular ley or lee ending, from the Old English lear, meaning specific woodland clearing, appears in Lee, Crawley, Henley, Stanley. The specific Chester and Castor endings, from the Latin castra, meaning specific Roman military camp, filtered through Old English, mark specific towns that grew from specific Roman military installations: Chester, Manchester, Lancaster, Colchester, Winchester, Cirencester. These specific names are a layered medieval document, Roman military geography, preserved through Old English modification, transmitted through the specific medieval period, surviving into the specific modern map. The specific wick or witch ending, from the Old English wick, meaning specific trading settlement or specific specialised farm, marks specific medieval commercial settlements: Norwich, Greenwich, Ipswich, Gatwick, Berwick. The specific ford ending marks specific medieval river crossings: Oxford, Hereford, Bradford, Hertford, Stratford. The particular place where the specific road crossed the specific river at the specific ford that was the specific reason the specific settlement existed in the specific first place. American place names carry medieval English geography in the specific way that colonial settlement carries the specific cultural memory of its origin. The specific Bostons and Cambridges and Oxfords and Manchesters of New England are deliberate medieval references, the specific naming choices of specific colonial settlers who brought specific English place name traditions to specific American locations, and applied them with the particular mix of nostalgia and aspiration that colonial naming typically reflects. The specific street names of medieval city centres are a particular kind of medieval document. The specific streets of the City of London, whose names end in "-gate", Aldgate, Bishopsgate, Moorgate, Newgate, preserve the specific medieval gates of the specific London Wall that define the specific boundaries of the specific medieval city. The particular streets ending in lane, Cheapside's specific lanes, the particular lanes of specific medieval cities everywhere, preserve the specific medieval word for a specific narrow path between specific properties. The specific row endings, Petticoat Lane, Bow, the Rows of Chester, preserve the specific medieval word for a specific line of specific buildings along a specific route. The specific Wood Street itself, from the Latin strata meaning specific paved road, is the particular linguistic fossil of the specific Roman road network that the medieval world inherited and named. Every time you refer to a specific street in the specific modern world, you're using a word whose specific origin is in the particular Roman infrastructure that the medieval world was built on, and that medieval English preserved in the specific form it transmitted to the modern world. The specific names of rivers, which are often older than any other place names in specific regions, preserved through specific successive waves of settlement, because rivers were specific landmarks too important to rename completely, are frequently pre-medieval in their specific origins. The Thames, the specific river that runs through London, is a specific Celtic name that was preserved through Roman occupation, through Anglo-Saxon settlement, through Viking incursion, through Norman conquest, and through 8 centuries of medieval use into the specific modern name. The specific name Thames is older than England. It is older than the specific medieval period. It is a specific linguistic fossil of the specific Celtic world that predated the specific Roman conquest. Chapter 18. The hospital. Medieval charity built the modern ward. You are in a hospital. The specific building you are in, the particular institution that provides specific medical care to specific people who need it, organised around specific wards of specific beds with specific medical professionals moving between them, is a medieval institution in its specific fundamental concept, and in the specific institutional tradition that produced it. The hospital is a specific institution, the particular building set aside for the specific care of sick people, organised by specific people with specific resources for the specific benefit of people who could not otherwise receive that specific care, is not ancient in the way that medicine is ancient. The specific ancient world had specific healing temples and specific medical practitioners, but the specific institution of the hospital the particular place where specific sick people were gathered and given specific sustained care, was a medieval development emerging through the specific Christian tradition of hospitality to the sick and poor that the specific medieval church organised into specific institutional form. St Bartholomew's Hospital in London, still operating as Bart's, the particular oldest hospital in England still on its specific original site, was founded in 1123 by the specific monk Rahir as a specific act of specific religious charity following a specific personal illness that Rahir attributed to the specific intercession of St Bartholomew. The particular medieval hospital was simultaneously a specific medical institution and a specific religious one. The specific care of the sick body was understood as the particular expression of specific Christian charity, and the specific hospital was organised as a specific religious community whose specific work was the particular care of the specific sick. The specific ward, the particular large room containing multiple specific beds, where specific patients received specific medical care from specific medical professionals, is the specific medieval hospital room in direct institutional continuity. The specific medieval hospital ward was typically a specific large hall with specific beds along the specific walls, with a specific altar or specific chapel at one end so that specific patients could participate in specific religious services from their specific beds. The specific modern ward, stripped of the specific altar, preserves the particular spatial organisation of the specific medieval hall with a directness that the specific modern hospital's other spaces, the specific operating theatre, the specific intensive care unit, do not. The specific nursing tradition, the particular organisation of specific trained individuals whose specific role is the sustained direct care of specific patients, is a medieval institutional development. The specific medieval nurses were specific religious personnel, specific nuns and specific monks in the specific religious orders that operated specific medieval hospitals, whose specific religious vocation organised and sustained the specific demanding labour of specific patient care. The specific Nightingale nursing reform of the 19th century, which established specific secular nursing as a specific trained profession with specific qualifications and specific professional standards, built on the specific medieval institutional tradition of organised nursing that the specific religious orders had developed, while replacing the specific religious motivation with the specific professional motivation. The specific hospice, the particular institution that provides specific care for specific people who are dying, with a specific emphasis on specific comfort and specific dignity, rather than specific cure, is a medieval institution that was revived and renamed in the specific modern period. The particular medieval hospice was a specific stopping place for specific pilgrims and specific travellers who were sick or dying on the specific road, operated by specific religious communities as a specific expression of the specific medieval virtue of hospitality. The specific modern hospice movement, which began in the specific 1960s with the specific work of Dame Cicely Saunders at St Christopher's Hospice in London, explicitly drew on the particular medieval understanding of the specific hospice as a specific place of specific compassionate care for the specific dying, while bringing to it the specific modern understanding of specific pain management and specific palliative care. The specific charitable endowment, the particular legal device by which specific wealthy individuals or specific institutions provide specific permanent funding for specific charitable purposes, was a medieval legal development that is still the specific legal form used by specific modern charitable hospitals and specific medical research institutions. The specific modern hospital that bears the name of a specific historical benefactor is operating on the specific endowment model that specific medieval donors used to fund specific medieval hospitals. The particular gift of specific property or specific money whose specific income funded the specific ongoing operation of the specific charitable institution in perpetuity. Chapter 19. The Guild's Ghost. How medieval craft rules became professional licensing. You are licensed. Possibly you don't think of yourself as licensed, but in a specific sense you almost certainly are. The specific professional qualifications that specific modern professionals are required to hold, the particular medical license that allows specific doctors to practice medicine, the specific bar admission that allows specific lawyers to practice law, the specific architecture license that allows specific architects to design specific buildings, the particular teaching credential that allows specific teachers to teach in specific schools, are the specific modern form of the particular medieval guild system of controlled access to specific trades. The medieval guild, the particular organisation of specific practitioners of a specific trade in a specific city, which controlled specific access to the specific trade through specific apprenticeship requirements, specific examination of specific competence, and specific licence to practice, was the particular medieval solution to the specific problem of how to ensure that specific practitioners of specific skilled trades were actually competent to do what they claimed to be able to do. The specific guild examined specific apprentices who had completed specific terms of specific training, granted specific qualified practitioners the particular right to practice the specific trade, and excluded specific unqualified practitioners from doing so within the specific guild's specific jurisdiction. The specific modern licensing board, the particular professional organisation that sets specific qualification requirements, conducts specific examinations of specific competence, grants specific licenses to specific qualified practitioners, and disciplines or removes the specific licenses of specific practitioners who violate specific professional standards, is the specific modern institutional form of the particular medieval guild. The specific American Medical Association, the specific Bar Association, the specific Institute of Chartered Accountants. These specific modern professional organisations are the direct institutional descendants of the specific medieval guilds, performing the specific same functions of quality control and market access management that the specific medieval guild performed through the specific modern mechanisms of specific qualification examination, specific licensure, and specific professional discipline. The specific word masterpiece, the particular term for a work of exceptional quality, now used in the general language to indicate any specific work of specific outstanding achievement, was a specific medieval guild term with a specific technical meaning. The specific masterpiece was the particular work that a specific journeyman submitted to the specific guild masters as the specific evidence of their specific readiness for the specific qualification of master craftsman. The particular guild masters examined the specific masterpiece, judged its specific technical quality, and granted or withheld the specific qualification on the basis of their specific assessment of the specific work's specific merit. The particular cultural meaning of masterpiece, the specific association with the highest specific achievement of a specific practitioner's specific art, is preserved in the specific modern general usage of the specific term, long after the specific guild examination process that gave the specific term its specific original meaning has disappeared. The specific journeyman, the particular medieval worker who had completed specific apprenticeship training but had not yet achieved the specific master qualification, is preserved as the specific modern term for a specific competent but not exceptional practitioner. The particular journeyman that the specific sports commentator describes, the specific adequate but unremarkable professional athlete who fills a specific roster spot without specific distinction, is using the specific medieval guild terminology, preserved through the specific language with the specific meaning substantially intact. Someone who is specific and qualified, but not yet the specific master of their specific craft. The specific apprenticeship, the particular arrangement under which a specific young person learns a specific skilled trade through specific sustained practice under the specific supervision of a specific qualified practitioner, is a medieval institution that has survived with remarkable continuity into the specific modern period. The specific modern apprenticeship in specific trades, the particular electrical apprenticeship, the specific plumbing apprenticeship, the particular carpentry apprenticeship, operates on the specific medieval model of specific hands-on training under specific expert supervision, with specific graduated responsibility and specific formal qualification at the end of the specific training period. The specific company of a specific trade, the particular worshipful company of goldsmiths, the specific worshipful company of mercers, the specific worshipful company of fishmongers, and the various other specific livery companies of the City of London, are specific medieval guilds that are still operating in the specific modern City of London, maintaining specific ceremonies, specific charitable functions, and specific connections to specific modern trades that the specific original guilds organised. The specific goldsmiths company still assays and hallmarks specific precious metal items. The specific hallmark, the particular mark that certifies the specific purity of specific precious metal, is a specific medieval guild quality control system still in specific modern operation. Chapter 20. The Uniform. Why you're still wearing what your role requires. You're wearing something specific because of what you do. Maybe it is a specific uniform in the strict sense, the particular clothing of a specific nurse, the specific clothing of a specific police officer, the specific clothing of a specific soldier. Or maybe it is the specific professional dress of a specific office, the particular suit and tie that specific professions still expect, the specific lab coat that specific scientists and specific medical professionals wear, the specific gown that specific judges and specific academics wear for specific formal occasions. Whatever the specific form, the specific idea that specific roles require specific visible clothing, that what you do should be visible in what you wear, is a medieval idea that has shaped the specific modern world's approach to specific professional dress in ways that are more direct than most people recognize. The specific livery, the particular clothing provided by a specific noble household to specific members of that specific household, as a specific visible marker of the specific relationship between the specific household and the specific individuals who belong to it, was a medieval institution that is the direct ancestor of the specific modern uniform. The specific medieval servant who wore the specific colours and specific devices of the specific lord they served was performing a specific function that the specific modern employee in the specific company uniform is performing, making the specific relationship between the specific individual and the specific institution visually legible to specific observers. The specific sumptuary laws, the particular medieval laws that prescribed specific clothing for specific social classes and prohibited specific clothing for specific lower classes, were the specific medieval attempt to maintain specific visible social hierarchy through specific regulation of specific dress. The particular law that prohibited specific lower class individuals from wearing specific furs, specific colours, especially purple, which required the specific expensive Tyrian dye, and was therefore associated with the specific higher social status. And specific materials was the specific medieval attempt to make the specific social order visually legible in the specific way that the specific medieval social order required. These specific laws are gone. The particular British statute of apparel was last meaningfully enforced in the specific 16th century, but the specific social function that they performed, making specific social distinctions visible in specific dress, is still performed by the specific modern dress codes of specific institutions and specific professions. The specific black of the specific academic gown, the specific white of the specific doctor's coat, the specific blue of the specific police uniform. These specific colour associations are not arbitrary, and they are not specifically modern. The specific black of academic dress reflects the specific medieval clerical tradition of the specific scholar as a specific semi-religious figure in the specific university, that was itself a specific quasi-religious institution. The specific white of the medical coat reflects the specific 19th century antiseptic movement, listed as specific white, but builds on the specific earlier tradition of specific medical figures distinguished by specific dress from specific non-medical figures. The specific blue of the specific police uniform, adopted in England in 1829 with the specific founding of the Metropolitan Police under Robert Peel, was chosen specifically to distinguish the specific new police from the specific military, whose specific red uniforms had specific associations with specific military authority that the specific new civilian police force was specifically designed to avoid. The specific tie, a particular decorative strip of fabric worn around the specific neck, knotted in one of the specific traditional knots, the 4 in hand, the half Windsor, the full Windsor, hanging down the specific front of the specific shirt, is the specific descendant of the specific cravat worn by specific Croatian mercenaries in the specific 17th century, adopted by the specific French court, elaborated by the specific English dandy tradition of the specific 18th and 19th centuries, and preserved in the specific modern professional dress of specific cultures, because it has become the specific visible marker of specific formal and professional contexts. The specific school uniform, the particular clothing required of specific students at specific schools, in the specific colours and specific forms that the specific school designates, is a directly medieval institution. The specific medieval scholars of the specific university wore specific academic dress that distinguished them from specific non-scholars and that indicated their specific membership in the specific academic community. The specific school uniform of the specific modern school performs the specific same function. It makes the specific student's membership in the specific educational institution visibly legible and distinguishes the specific student from the specific non-student in the specific visual environment of the specific school and the specific surrounding community. Chapter 21. The Parish. Medieval Local Government. In the modern postcode, you live in a specific area. The particular area you live in has a specific name, specific boundaries, and a specific administrative existence that allows specific government bodies to know specifically where you are for specific purposes of specific taxation, specific service delivery, and specific political representation. The specific postcode or specific zip code that identifies your specific location is the modern descendant of the specific medieval parish, the particular fundamental unit of local organisation that the medieval church established, and that the medieval state adopted as the specific foundation of its specific local administrative structure. The specific parish, a particular area served by a specific church, with specific defined boundaries, a specific resident priest, and specific obligations of specific tithes from specific residents, was the specific fundamental unit of medieval English, and more broadly medieval Western European social organisation. Every specific person in the specific medieval world belonged to a specific parish. The specific parish recorded their specific birth, their specific marriage, and their specific death, the particular records that are the specific foundation of specific genealogical research, and that the specific medieval church maintained as the specific institutional record of the specific Christian community. The specific English poor law, the particular system of specific local responsibility for the specific relief of the specific poor that the Elizabethan legislation of 1601 formalised, was built on the specific medieval parish as its specific administrative unit. The specific overseers of the poor who administered the specific poor law were specific parish officials. The specific settlement laws that determined which specific parish was responsible for the specific relief of a specific poor person. The particular laws that required specific poor people to return to their specific parish of settlement if they became specific burdens on specific other parishes, were the specific legal expression of the specific medieval parish's specific responsibility for the specific welfare of its specific members. The specific modern ward, the particular administrative unit used for specific local council elections in specific British cities, is named after the specific medieval ward, the particular defensive division of the specific medieval city that was the specific administrative unit of the specific city of London and of specific other medieval English towns. The specific ward of the specific city of London, Aldgate Ward, Bishopsgate Ward, Farringdon Ward, the various other specific wards that divide the specific square mile of the specific city, have specific continuous administrative existence from the specific medieval period, with specific ward elections, specific ward representatives, the particular aldermen and the specific common councilmen, and specific ward administration that is directly continuous from the specific medieval institution. The specific parish council, the particular lowest tier of specific local government in specific rural England, is the specific direct descendant of the specific medieval parish vestry, the particular meeting of specific ratepayers that manage specific parish affairs in the specific period before specific formal local government structures were established. The specific modern parish council, which manages specific local amenities, specific village halls, specific allotments, specific local footpaths, is the specific modern form of the specific medieval institution of specific collective local management of specific local affairs by specific local people. The specific census, the particular enumeration of specific populations that specific modern states conduct at specific regular intervals for specific administrative purposes, has medieval antecedents in the specific Domesday Book of 1086, which was the specific comprehensive survey of specific landholdings and specific resources of specific Norman England that William the Conqueror commissioned for specific purposes of specific taxation and specific military assessment. The specific Domesday Book, a specific document that recorded specific information about specific places and specific people with specific thoroughness, unprecedented in specific medieval Europe, is the specific ancestor of the specific modern census, performing the specific same function of specific comprehensive, specific state knowledge of specific resources and specific population for specific administrative purposes. Chapter 22. The Sunday Roast, the Market Day, and the Medieval Rhythm of Eating. You eat at specific times on specific days. The particular rhythm of your eating, the specific meals you eat, the specific times you eat them, the specific social significance you attach to specific eating occasions, the particular foods you associate with specific times of the specific week, reflects a specific medieval organization of time and food that has been preserved through the specific cultural tradition of the specific communities that produced it, long after the specific reasons for that specific organization have substantially changed. The specific Sunday meal, the particular special meal that many families in many cultures treat as the specific main family eating occasion of the specific week, more elaborate than the specific weekday meals shared with the specific extended family, involving the specific traditional foods of the specific cultural tradition, is a medieval institution. The specific medieval Sunday, the particular holy day that the specific medieval church designated as the specific day of rest, and the specific day of worship, organized the specific week around the specific Sunday service, and the specific meal that followed the specific Sunday service was the particular occasion for specific special food and specific family gathering that the specific economics and specific social organization of the specific medieval week made possible. The specific roast, the particular joint of meat cooked whole in the specific oven or on the specific spit, was the specific Sunday meal of specific medieval and early modern English communities, because the specific baker's ovens that the specific medieval community used for specific communal baking were available on Sundays after the specific Saturday baking, and the specific joints of meat that the specific household could afford for the specific weekly feast were taken to the specific baker's oven to be roasted in the specific residual heat. The specific Sunday roast of the specific modern English family is the particular direct descendant of this specific medieval practice, preserved as the specific cultural tradition of specific Sunday eating, long after the specific communal oven that organized it has been replaced by the specific domestic oven. The specific market day, the particular day of the specific week on which the specific local market operates, with specific vendors selling specific goods at specific stalls, is medieval in its specific origin and in many cases in its specific continuous operation. The specific market charter, the particular royal document that granted specific towns the specific right to hold a specific market on a specific day, was a specific medieval instrument of specific economic organization. Specific English towns still hold their specific markets on the specific days that their specific medieval charters designated, because the specific tradition of the specific market day has been maintained with sufficient consistency that the specific day has become the specific social expectation of the specific community. The specific fair, the particular annual event that brought specific traders from specific distant places to a specific location for specific trading of specific goods over a specific period, is a medieval institution that has been preserved in specific modern forms, ranging from the specific trade fair, the particular commercial exhibition at which specific businesses display specific products to specific buyers, to the specific agricultural show, the particular annual exhibition of specific agricultural produce and specific livestock that specific rural communities still organize, to the specific fun fair, the particular travelling entertainment that preserves in its specific name the specific medieval origin of the specific pleasure that attended the specific medieval trading fair. The specific Christmas feast, the particular elaborate meal that specific modern families prepare on December 25th, with specific traditional foods that vary by specific national and specific family tradition, but that share the specific quality of being more elaborate and more socially significant than the specific ordinary meal, is the specific direct descendant of the specific medieval Christmas feast, itself the particular Christian elaboration of the specific midwinter feast tradition that the specific medieval church Christianized, while preserving the specific social function of the specific midwinter communal eating occasion that the specific agricultural calendar made possible. The specific toast, the particular ritual raising of the specific glass, the specific verbal acknowledgement of a specific person or a specific occasion, the specific communal drinking that follows, is medieval in its specific elaboration as a social ritual. The specific word toast, the particular term for the specific ritual, comes from the specific medieval practice of placing a specific piece of spiced toast in the specific drink being honoured, which both improved the specific flavour of the specific drink, medieval wine being often of specific variable quality and gave the specific ritual its specific name. The specific person being honoured was the toast of the specific company in the particular sense that the specific piece of toast was the specific flavour in the specific drink. The specific individual whose specific health or specific achievement was giving the specific gathering its specific particular savour. Chapter 23. The signature, the seal, and the password. Medieval identity in the digital age. You are proving who you are, this specific thing you're doing, the particular act of demonstrating to a specific institution or a specific individual that you are the specific person you claim to be, is something you do many times every specific day, mostly without thinking about it. You type a specific password, you present a specific card, you show a specific document, you use a specific biometric, your specific fingerprint, your specific face. That specific technology compares to a specific stored record. You sign a specific signature. Every one of these specific identity verification methods has a medieval ancestor, and the specific logic that connects the specific medieval method to the specific modern one is more direct than the specific technological difference might suggest. The specific signature, the particular mark made by a specific individual on a specific document to indicate specific agreement or specific authorship, is medieval in its specific concept, though its specific modern form evolved through the early modern period. The specific medieval equivalent was the specific seal, the particular impression of a specific individual's unique dye into specific wax, which created the specific mark that was the particular legal evidence of the specific individual's specific agreement or specific authorization. The specific seal was the specific personal signature of the specific medieval world, unique to the specific individual, physically attached to the specific document, and legally recognized as the specific evidence of the specific individual's specific intent. The specific transition from the specific wax seal to the specific handwritten signature. The particular shift that occurred through the specific late medieval and early modern period as specific literacy increased, and the specific written signature became the specific legally recognized form of specific personal authentication. Preserved the specific logic of the specific seal, a specific unique personal mark that only the specific individual could produce, while replacing the specific physical medium, wax and dye, with the specific personal medium, the specific individual's specific characteristic handwriting, the specific modern electronic signature, the particular digital equivalent that specific modern legal systems recognize for specific purposes, is the specific modern form of the same specific logic, the specific unique mark of the specific individual, produced in the specific way that only the specific individual can produce it, applied to the specific document as specific evidence of the specific individual's specific intent. The specific password, the particular secret word or phrase that grants access to specific spaces or specific resources when correctly given, is explicitly medieval. The specific military password, the particular word that specific sentries demanded from specific individuals seeking entry to specific guarded spaces, which specific authorized individuals knew and specific unauthorized individuals did not, was a specific medieval military institution. The specific password and countersign system, the particular challenge and response that specific medieval sentries used, requiring the specific approaching individual to give both the specific password and the specific correct countersign, is recognizable as the specific ancestor of the specific modern two-factor authentication, which similarly requires the specific authorized individual to demonstrate specific knowledge of the specific password and specific possession of the specific second factor. The specific heraldic device, the particular visual identity that the specific medieval individual used on the specific shield, the specific seal, the specific banner, was the specific medieval identity system that performed the specific function that the specific modern logo performs, the specific visual identification of the specific individual or the specific institution that specific observers needed to recognize from the specific distance at which specific medieval combat and specific medieval commerce required specific recognition. The specific college arms, the specific city arms, the specific royal arms, these specific heraldic devices are the specific visual identities of specific medieval institutions still in specific modern use, performing the specific same function of specific institutional visual identification that the specific medieval heraldic tradition developed them to perform. The specific biometric, the particular physical characteristic of the specific individual used to verify specific identity, is medieval in its specific concept, if not in its specific technology. The specific fingerprint that specific modern biometric systems use is a specific modern technological application of the specific ancient observation that specific individuals have specific unique physical characteristics that can serve as specific identity markers. The specific medieval equivalent was the specific individual's specific physical appearance, the particular combination of specific height, specific build, specific facial features, and specific distinguishing marks, the specific scar, the specific birthmark, the specific missing finger, that the specific medieval legal tradition recognized as the specific evidence of specific individual identity in specific legal proceedings. The specific recognizance, the particular legal document in which the specific individual acknowledged specific obligations before a specific court, was the specific medieval legal instrument whose specific function required the specific identification of the specific individual, performed through the specific physical description that the specific court record preserved. The specific modern passport, the particular document that identifies a specific individual to specific foreign authorities and requests their specific cooperative treatment, preserves in its specific name the specific medieval concept of the specific document that requested specific passage through specific gates. The specific medieval passport, the particular document that specific authorities issued to specific travellers requesting that specific gatekeepers allow the specific traveller to pass through the specific port. Gate was the specific ancestor of the specific modern passport, performing the specific same function of the specific state's specific vouching for the specific identity and specific good standing of the specific individual to the specific foreign authorities whose specific territory the specific individual was proposing to enter. You are, every time you log in, every time you sign, every time you present your specific document to the specific authority at the specific border, performing a specific act of specific medieval institutional logic. The specific technology has changed. The specific logic, the particular idea that specific individuals must demonstrate specific unique identity to specific institutions in specific ways that the specific institutions can specifically verify, is the specific medieval idea that the specific medieval chancery, the specific medieval court, and the specific medieval century developed, and that the specific modern digital world has preserved in the specific new forms that the specific new technology makes possible. The Middle Ages did not invent identity, but it built the specific institutional systems for verifying it that the specific modern world still runs on, every time the specific server checks your specific password against its specific stored hash. It is performing a specific computation whose specific institutional logic was worked out in a specific medieval guardhouse at a specific gate in a specific city wall that no longer exists, but whose specific question, asked of the specific approaching figure in the specific darkness, "Who are you and how do I know?" is the specific same question that the specific blinking cursor is asking you right now. Conclusion: what the persistence of medieval rules tells us. You have made it through this tour of the Middle Ages hiding in your modern life, and I hope you are looking at your Tuesday somewhat differently. The specific medieval rules and customs that we have examined, the particular academic traditions, the specific legal concepts, the particular social customs, the specific measurement systems, the particular financial instruments, the specific institutional structures, have survived for centuries not primarily because medieval people were especially wise, or because the specific rules they created were especially good. They have survived because of the specific way that human institutions work. Through the particular combination of network effects, everyone else is doing it this way, switching costs, changing is expensive and disruptive, and functional adequacy, it works well enough that the specific cost of changing exceeds the specific benefit of the alternative. Some of the medieval rules we still follow are worth keeping. The specific academic tradition of peer review, of specific expert evaluation of specific claims before they are accepted as knowledge, is a medieval institutional development that is genuinely good and that the specific modern world has correctly preserved. The particular common law tradition of following specific judicial precedent, of building legal certainty through the specific application of consistent principles across specific cases, is a medieval legal development that has proven robustly useful in specific modern contexts. Some of the medieval rules we still follow are worth questioning. The specific QWERTY keyboard that slows your typing for the sake of a mechanical problem you don't have. The specific measurement units that create the particular confusion between American and British gallons, and that make specific engineering calculations unnecessarily complex. The specific academic calendar that gives university students long summer holidays because they were supposed to help with the harvest. And some of the medieval rules we still follow are essentially arbitrary, neither specifically good nor specifically bad, but simply the particular way things have always been done in the specific context where we do them. The particular number of jurors, the specific days of the week and their specific names, the particular forms of address that tell you less than they used to about the specific person being addressed. The specific point of noticing that these things are medieval is not to create the particular anxiety that our modern world is built on a medieval foundation that we should urgently replace. It is to create the specific awareness that every specific practice in our current world has a particular history, that the things we do without thinking are not natural laws, but specific human choices made in specific circumstances that have been inherited and preserved, and that could, in specific circumstances, be changed. The Middle Ages is not a period that ended cleanly in a specific year and left no trace. It is a specific layer of sediment in the particular stratigraphy of human culture, beneath specific later layers, still present in specific modern practices, still shaping specific modern institutions in specific ways that are only visible when you look carefully. You are living in the Middle Ages' specific footnote, and it is, on balance, a remarkably comfortable place to be, even if the keyboard is slightly suboptimal.